Hello and welcome back to our roundtable discussion of Loki. We've already done episode 1 and now we are doing episode 2. Unfortunately, Sir Ben cannot join us. He is feeling sick. But I am joined by Sir Nathan and Sir Oz, or just Oz, the meme lord.
Whatever the hell you want to call me.
Anything's good.
Don't call me late for dinner.
So, Loki episode 2. Now, I want to mention one, housekeeping item or caveat or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. You probably noticed that I tend to speak a lot. You might think I'm dominating conversation. Just put your, worries.
Have you been reading comments, Chad?
Yes, I do read comments. I read comments a lot. And some people say, thing is, these guys know what I'm like, and they know they can interrupt me anytime. Okay?
Oh, wait, we can?
What? This is news to me.
You're cutting...
I've never been successful at that. I've just waited for my moment to just
Really? Because what did you do just then? When I said, what we can? Did you just interrupt me then? I gave the floor to you?
It's like fighting Mike Tyson as a squirrel in the light. I can't get in. It's difficult.
But look, I've been doing this for a while in front of the camera, so I have a lot to say. I find it very comfortable. I just go on and mainly I usually have heaps to say, especially, and I got a lot to say this time. And so, if you guys have anything, just cut me off.
Okay.
Tell me to shut up, unless I say no, I want to finish what I'm saying, and then I'll try and pass it off.
That's fair enough.
Every time. Every single time he will do that. But it's fine, because, we're all used to it. We love Shad. That's why we love Shad.
Did you just cut me off again, or was that just, I let you?
Dude, I'll grab a sword and cut you off.
You did it again!
Wait, no, sorry. Did you just cut me off?
Okay, you're not the last one. Yeah, that was, I posed a question.
See, this is cutting you off right there.
There you go!
There you go. That's
see?
cutting you off.
And I'm fine with it, guys. And they're fine with it too.
That's not cutting off.
Let's get into it. Okay. Loki episode 2.
Wow. No, I'm doing it right. Wow.
What did you guys think first before I get to it?
Everything with Tom. I like Tom Hiddleston's Loki.
He's a good actor, and as much as I've got issues with, he of course, with what he was given, he does a good job with what he was given. All right? So Tom Hiddleston is always good.
I enjoyed it more than the first one. I like the jet skis. I think that's a foreshadowing to something to come in the...
There was only a magazine!
No, but they talked about it later at lunch.
Chekhov's gun. It's Chekhov's jet ski.
There's gonna be a moment in, the last episode where he gets to ride jet ski, I think.
Yeah, and that's... Yeah. But, what do you think of the show?
I want you to fight for your opinion, because you liked it? Do you think it's good or not? You're allowed to like it.
I like it more than the first one. Mm-hmm. I think... The first episode was too much on, here's the premise of the story, here's the world. I like this one more because we're in the world, and rather than being told what's happening, we see Loki do stuff.
Yeah, Loki does something, in actual fact, the plot moves forward in this episode thanks to Loki's smarts and initiative, and he does something smart, and it is legitimately clever. There was actually a bit of clever writing in it. One thing. One concept. And I didn't like nearly everything else.
Yeah, I liked it because Tom Hiddleston's funny as Loki. I really empathize with him. But yeah, a lot of other things, though, are the opposite. I don't like a lot of the other things. Mm-hmm. I don't understand which of those will be spoilers, technically, or not. But we will definitely go into it.
Yeah.
I'll wait for you to broach.
I have a page of notes, my random scribble. But I have a lot to say. So I want to also explain that I have two kind of frames of mind when I watch something. One is critically, and one is just along for the ride. And if you like Loki, I think that's brilliant. You don't need my permission to like anything. You can like whatever you like, and if you disagree with it, that's fine. And perhaps I could have liked Loki if I was just watching it along. I can generally enjoy a lot of crap, but there is, even when I'm trying to just go along for the ride, in some things, the garbage and the plot holes and the just everything wrong in it can even overcome that side of things. Though, on the flip side, Oz is moving something that's making noise. Thank you for coming back, Oz. On the flip side, there are things that are pretty bad that don't break through my just laid back, I'm going to enjoy it. And I was able to enjoy The Mandalorian, but if you look at Mandalorian critically, there is...
Even then, if you look at season 2 of Mandalorian non-critically, there's a lot there.
So I don't know if I could have just gone along with the ride with Loki, because I've purposely gone into this watching it critically, and when you go in to watch something critically, like... Now, you might be thinking nothing comes up to... No, stuff does come up to muster, okay? Even when you're watching it critically. And sometimes you're always going to find flaws, but even then... Usually something can still be so good, and its good outweighs the problems that you find.
So what was it, Chad? What was it you couldn't... Go down the list.
No, we don't want to go to spoilers, but overall, my take is that I really didn't like... There was one clever thing that I thought was, clever, good. Tom Hiddleston is charming as always, yet even his charm, I got annoyed because, to me, the writing in it makes him very contrary to Loki. I don't think he was playing... he felt too needy,
belittled.
He was belittled throughout the whole thing, but he seemed to accept it way too easy. Like he's like he didn't believe him and everything, but he comes back and he's like jumping after Owen Wilson saying I could do this or I could do this and it really came off as just like pathetic. And I think Loki has too much pride in himself to be reduced to something like that. And you could say, well, he knows he has no power in this world and things like that. I still don't think it's justified. I don't think it's in character. And I think there are a number of other things that were out of character with Loki that we'll go into in the spoilers, to the point that even good old Tom's charm playing the role, it just rubbed me the wrong way. And
I'll have to play devil's advocate and say maybe Loki is manipulating what's his name? Mobius, because Mobius kind of likes that Mobius calls him a little puppy dog, says, "Oh, I feel bad for the kid," and you're like, maybe he's just playing to that. Maybe.
Again, it annoyed me, Mobius trying to talk down to him, but he even says that he's doing that to try and goad Loki's arrogance to get him to step up to the plate and prove that he's not the weak one and things. And so I can kind of get that, but if Loki is, playing the whole 3D chess game and stuff...
3D regular life chess is 3D chess. You're thinking 4D chess.
4D chess.
Or, and we don't know if it's real yet or not, 5D chess.
Hey.
Sorry,
5D.
just go on. What were you saying?
It still rubbed me the wrong way, because there were times, right, when no one is watching Loki, okay, and is by himself, and he acts very out of character. And so I didn't like it. And then there were things that were blatant contradictions in the world. Like one of the biggest issues I have with the overall world building of this episode, they actually go into some world building explanations to try and go over some stuff to make things work better. And a big thing outrightly contradicts a very, very significant world building structure that they established in the first episode with how the TV operates and where they come from. And there's a number of these really big contradictions in regards to how things are operating. And this isn't a nitpick. When we'll get to the spoilers, you'll know exactly what, because I'll be talking about it specifically. But the entire conflict and the purpose of the TVA is founded on the rules that they're trying to establish with the world building. And so if they're not consistent with them, everything else has no stakes because they're flip-flopping and it doesn't matter, it doesn't mean a thing. And so I'm not invested now, and it's kind of ruining it for me. And so overall, I found very little to enjoy in it. I'll probably give it another 3 out of 10, if that, and the more I go into it, I might get worse. But like I said, I'm going into it critically, and if you like it, I think that's great. I'm glad you enjoy it. But if you want to say it's good or not, well, then we have some more objective standards that I can go into. Is there anything else you guys want to say generally?
I like this episode less than the first one. I think the first one was better. Yeah.
I liked it more. I find it... The opening, I can say, had a medieval theme to it. And my first thought was, oh, Shad's going to have stuff to say about this. And then they kind of flipped it on its head.
This isn't a spoiler. It's right at the beginning. It's a Renaissance fair.
Yeah.
And the thing is, though, I know that location. Like, the location they use is the location of a real Renaissance fair. And because I recognize the buildings, I remember like looking at different Renaissance fairs and like, oh, that's actually a real place.
What was the point of it being a Renaissance fair?
They just like... It's not a spoiler. They're trying to check down a criminal of some kind.
No. The criminal lured them there.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why they were there. But why?
But why a Renaissance?
Why not? Why anywhere else? Why a shopping mall? Why a pizza parlor?
Well, you
why
see,
on a road? Why in a desert?
Typically, people who are writers will figure out ways to make it actually tie into the episode.
Oh, does it? Sometimes it is just random.
Yeah, they just needed a set dress. Someone had a Renaissance fair in like the back. And they were
I think that's...
Is it because they wanted to comment on the TVA's outfit? Hey, you're not dressed right.
They could have done that at literally any other time in human history.
Like, overall, I think
What about
people...
the fact that they had...
Well, this is the thing.
What about Rome, when they were in Rome?
I feel people have been reacting to their outfits nowhere near as realistically enough. Like when they're in, Renaissance, whatever, where they talk to the little girl in episode 1. If you're in some type of a modern setting, well, they look like some type of military outfit. So, but in a Renaissance fair, at least they acknowledge, like, why are you dressed like that? You're supposed to... So it didn't bother me that much.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we're ready to just move into spoilers now.
Yeah.
And so this is your warning, spoilers now.
Wait, we didn't get Nathan's opinion on the episode.
Well, yeah,
I enjoyed the action. I kind of went a bit brain dead for it mostly. Just went along with the journey.
was there
Yeah, you
action?
do that often,
I mean,
don't
there
you?
was... Look,
Loki got
there
punched
was...
around.
Well, that's a spoiler.
Well, you just say we're moving on to spoilers?
Yeah, we did, I guess. Because I hated that.
Yeah, me too.
Even if it was great, even if it was the best choreographed fight scene in all the Marvel thing, there is a reason why I hate that. So, and I can tell you now, it's like, why is this? We're getting. I like to generally go in order, but why is this guy able to be so beat down Loki? Loki. This is the thing, right?
Maybe the enchantment he was under gives him the strength of Loki. There's that BS. But at the same time, right, he's just throwing Loki around like they do lazily in every bloody superhero thing.
Loki survived a beating from the Hulk.
Yes.
Now, that means his power level is actually insane up there. It's close to Thor, essentially, and Thor had to go toe-to-toe with him. So Loki's superhuman abilities in terms of just physical power and strength is actually crazy high to be able to survive what the Hulk did to him. And they have him getting beaten down by what look to be regular humans. The TVA, lady, and we don't see them having any superpowers so far. They can be defeated by fire. And then this guy, and look, yeah, it could be that the enchantment increases his powers, but we're given no real indication. I mean, there's one point where he throws Loki pretty far, which seemed a bit superhuman-ish.
But even then, it's only his own body weight and mass. Like, he's literally been dropped from an aeroplane by Thor, landed on Stone Mountain, and he's been fine.
The other thing is Loki has his magic now. They show him that he has his magic. He dries himself, does a thing. That entire fight, he doesn't use a single thing. Actually, Loki does use a power, and we end up addressing it a bit later on in the discussion.
Nope.
And so, again, I feel, and the title of this, review, we're gonna title it, something along the lines of the total emasculation and belittlement of Loki. Like, this whole episode felt like crapping on Loki the entire time, and depowering, and he does one smart thing, and everything else, like the fighting, other things like that, everyone's showing him up, telling him he's useless, and no one's taking him seriously. Like, when they're serious in the sense that, are you sure you can control him? Yeah, I control him, we need him, and stuff like that. But when they're actually in the field, no one gives a toss about him, and they're not taking him seriously, when really he's a dangerous person.
Yeah, and he's had no problems killing before.
And
also, all those people in there are going to die anyway. Why doesn't he just defend himself, kill the dude attacking him?
Well, I guess the subject that we're onto now is the mischaracterization, the poor treatment, and inconsistency with Loki himself in this episode.
From Loki to Wokey.
And there's a number of points where I felt Loki was out of character and belittled on so many levels. And so I didn't like, it's almost like he's simping after, Owen Wilson saying, I can help, I can do this, because he gets kind of caught out in the first, excursion. And look, if that's a plan, I think he could try and do that, maybe put them into a false sense of security. Like, I think it would have been balanced out if it was actually shown that when no one's looking, he's got a plan. He's maybe even as something as subtle as he's got a look or something like that.
Yeah.
But the whole thing, even when he's on his own, he's bumbling, trying to find what he's doing as he goes, kind of Loki. And two things in particular, because again, I don't think they earned the payoff that they tried to do in episode 1 to make him change when he looked all through the flashbacks. I think this totally should still be the Loki just after the Battle of New York.
Yeah.
And still have very evil intentions and stuff. And there are a couple of things that was just so out of character for where Loki should be. And it's when they go to Pompeii to prove that you can mess up the timeline before a catastrophic event and it won't cause a branching thing, and I'll talk about that more later. And when he finds the TVA agent who has been beating down and giving him crap the whole time, unconscious. Like
He could have done something about that, and no one would have known.
At the very least, he could have done something so, like, he's a trickster. What would he...
Yeah.
Something as dumb as put a hand in her mouth, or, like, something even a little more edgy.
He could have literally vaporized her,
That's-
and no one would know, because...
It's vaporization!
There's nothing
She
left.
would have just... That's the...
And all of his problems for her would have been gone.
Exactly. The real Loki, at this point in his life, would have killed her. Completely at his mercy. She's been a problem at every step
Trying
of the
to
way.
kill him.
Yeah, trying to kill... She wants to kill him. And she has been preventing all of his plans to try and get trust in the TVA, go officer, illness, all these things. And so the real Loki would have totally offed her.
Yep.
But instead, he looks down like he's got concern for her. It's like...
Stupid.
That was it felt so out of character, and the other like the Pompeii where Owen Wilson's like make a bird sound to go something off variant, and obviously Loki is going to ignore and do, and so I'm hoping I'm expecting wanting Loki to do something proper. Loki is like that's fine, and he should just go and kill someone. They're going to die anyway. Loki would have just the way that Loki was happy to make a scene, cause a ruckus and stuff like that. Look at First Avengers when he walks into that party and stuff, and he just grabs the guy with the eye gouge in front of everyone, and he's like...
He's mercilessly killed people.
And so these people are already dying, and so Loki would not have had a problem at all to just off some of them, and it would have been so much more powerful and impactful. Oh, and it would be like, and it's like they're going to die anyway.
Yeah.
And instead, he just... starts to, you're all gonna die. Look, there are goats. I'll let the goats off a wagon. This is so high tier mischievous. It's like, it was pathetic.
This is the dude who tricked literally every person in Asgard, managed to get rid of Odin, who managed to he managed to gain the favor of Thanos. He took Thor toe-to-toe in a fight and stabbed him, right? But he was fighting him for a good minute and a half, and Thor managed to fight the Hulk for a minute and a half, staying at his level. And some random trucker from 2050 can throw him around and was like, oh.
But people will say, no, he had the power of the other Loki. And it's like...
Even then,
Loki could have put up a better fight. He's got his magic or something, but they were happy to just let him get beaten down constantly. This is really... the utter emasculation and almost character assassination of one of the most favoured, characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And so this made, as we were talking about it, my rage is growing, I hate it even more now.
They did it with Bucky getting his ass kicked by the Dormilagier and the teenagers
annoyed
with
me so.
steroids.
Bucky was so tough when he went up against Captain America in Winter Soldier. That fight scene, the toe-to-toe, he is on the level of Captain America. And these untrained people, they're super soldiers, but they untrain everything. He struggled... Anyway, that's another thing. That's on... sorry, Nathan. Do you have anything to say about Loki's character assassination? Remember, you need to interrupt.
Yeah, just thinking about that. I'm interested to see if the writer's different from the movies to the TV shows.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because I feel like the writers for the TV series have definitely not watched the source material.
No, they have. They just don't care.
Yeah, like
they're lazy.
Well, not they're lazy. They have... I'd go as far to say they have a political agenda, as do all the Disney TV shows and some of the movies now.
I agree. There is definitely an agenda on play, and people might be saying, "Oh, well, we'll get to that."
An agenda.
There is a gender appearance somewhere.
But yeah, no, I agree. The power struggles were a bit... No, it's just...
anything else about this character?
Yeah, he felt completely different from the last episode. They did mention that now you don't shut up now, but he felt like we said last time, the first episode of Loki felt like Endgame Loki.
Yeah.
See, to me, it didn't, even in the first episode.
Well,
you mean? Sorry. I thought you said Endgame. You're right. It felt like
they wanted to make him
Endgame
I
thought
Loki.
you meant Battle of New York.
And this one, I feel like they went back on that now, and they're trying to reinvent Avengers Loki, but they're just confused.
They don't know what they want.
Yeah, I feel like it's bad enough that it's a time traveling timeline sub-dimensional plot, but now you also have confused writers who don't know what characters are or who.
Loki could literally act in any way, like he could keep doing all this stuff, but all he needs to do is show his intentions behind.
Yeah, when no one's around, or
backs,
or and he stands a bit more confidently, and he seems to be talking a bit honestly when the other Loki starts to take over people, and they're having the conversation and stuff. But even then, he gets beaten down so easily, and he doesn't off the officer when she's on her own, and when he totally would. And if the writers didn't want him to, like, if they actually were trying to say, no, the flashbacks caused him to change and is the better Loki, he's supposed to be a trickster. I'm not seeing any tricks at all, whereas being a bit of a, like, he could have done something funny with this unconscious lady. You're not saying doing anything wrong. But, like,
he's not Harvey Weinstein.
He's not that, but, like, I don't know.
Pull a prank.
Pull a prank, exactly.
No, I mean,
like,
Loki
find
her.
a thing of super glue or something in the shop and just stick her to the ground or something. Like.
I mean, I'm pretty sure she was right next to the shampoo. I'd shampoo the bottom of her shoes, so when she stands up,
that would be great, slipping around.
Yeah.
Like, give him some pranks or something. He's not a trickster at all. He's just like, I'm smart and clever. And so we need to talk about some world building stuff, because they try and cement the world building, and they make it worse in a big way. So in episode 1, this is and this is important. This is the underpinning conflict of the whole series. Okay, that there were many timelines waging a war. It was specifically a war, and the war threatened to destroy all reality. This is in the explanation in episode 1. And they say twice, not only in the explanation, again later in the same thing, they say the Time Lords, which even Loki calls lizards in this one, and so the lizard Satans stuff, right? They exist to prevent another war. That was episode 1. And so they're fixing the branching timelines to prevent a war. I don't like that explanation because I feel it's unintuitive. Why are the timelines waging a war? But it establishes some very clear things. By this explanation, it means multiple universes can exist and be fine if they didn't wage a war. It's the war that causes the end of all reality. That's episode 1. Episode 2, it's completely different. Now they're saying any branching timeline that merely exists for too long will end all of reality.
Well, yeah. Well, again, they could just be hyping it up like, oh, we got to get
No,
out
David, they have the red line. If it branches off and reaches the red line, reality
I know
will
they're
end.
saying that, but maybe it's not true.
If it's a lie?
Yes.
I think the writers are too, they don't have a clue to realise this massive contradiction, and they're just going with it, and they're not even going to address it. That's now, timeline too far, red line, stop, reset.
To be fair, they've made a lot of mistakes so far. So,
Yeah, and it's one thing to contradict previous canon from other films, but it's a whole other thing to contradict your own previous episodes so blatantly. I'm just like, what? Now, world building is important to me. I'm a writer, and so I understand the importance of world building, especially if the whole conflict that you're building your story on is founded on this.
I don't know, Shad. Like, Disney clearly has really high standards for writing and consistency. Just look at, like, The Last Jedi or Rise of Skywalker, They needed to justify how a ship would know which way was up and down. They needed to justify how ships would all spontaneously explode because one exploded. It makes perfect sense that their timeline makes no sense to you, a sane human being.
I can't stand it. And it gets worse. Like, there's more. Because, again, and I don't think people should give them a free pass about this. It's not hard to do consistent world building and structure certain elements or physical conditions in this universe to create conflict to found, a purpose for the TVA or something like that. I have a video that's going to be coming out on Shadiversity, which is a deeper dive breakdown onto the problems of episode 1, and I propose a really simple world condition which would justify a timekeeping type organization that they need to exist. And it's pretty simple. You can check out that video, keep an eye on Shadiversity. It's not at all, and you got the rules, you just be consistent with them. I came up with it in half an hour, and all you have to do is...
To be fair though, Shad, your solution was very similar to theirs.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
What was mine? Oh,
Yours was, okay, so maybe, what was it? Basically, maybe the inconsistencies in the different timelines created things like monsters or
no, you're
earthquakes.
jumping the gun. What it was, if something changes in the past and causes a branching timeline, there's a chance that timeline could be unstable by too many variables, okay? There's, the future is in too much flux, and there's a chance that new reality could collapse back in on the prime timeline that it branched out from. That collapsing, they're like these timelines, you would work with this if they were all existed in different physical locations along a higher spatial dimension, like the fourth or fifth spatial dimension, but there is a actual space, like a space that they are occupying that we can't see, and when they connect, like slap together, that has manifestations in the main timeline causing damage, like earthquakes that create
Earthquakes.
Earthquakes.
I would like to try
Earthquakes,
these delicious
monsters,
apocalyptic
but
earthquakes.
bad things, okay, which would justify the TVA's purpose then would be to go into these branching timelines, not to destroy them, not to actually murder the people in this new timeline, but to stabilize it. Okay.
And it might even be more interesting to have like maybe, what if the TVA had a modus operandi if they're not allowed to kill people? That would actually be more interesting.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Like the adjustment.
By the way, they acknowledge now that it is disintegration. Like when Loki says, well, when you mean reset, you actually mean disintegration. They roll it back a little bit to the point where they're not destroying an entire new universe, which I was saying in the last review. It's a localized reset of that area, where they basically disintegrate anything that is variant from the sacred timeline, but everything that is still in line with the sacred timeline gets to live and exist still. That's
but
how
that
it
makes
works.
no sense, because if it's localized, well, the Earth is still spinning through space, which is spinning through the solar system, which is spinning through the galaxy.
It's worse on a different level. For instance, Loki, right? They arrest Loki in the desert and reset Loki at the desert. And if this is localized, that means they don't reset anything in New York. And if they wanted to properly reset it, Loki would need to reappear in New York and be arrested and then taken to Asgard by the Avengers. But they don't. The answer is that they must have done a reset bomb in New York as well. We don't see that because if they're localized and it only happened in the desert, that means they didn't properly reset that timeline and things are going to collapse. I like the world building stuff, but there's even more issues. They say. And this is obviously going to lead us into another discussion. I've got lots of notes, it's fun. And look, it's not chronologically, but I guess we're going by theme and element, and we're on the world building subject now. Did you have anything you wanted to share on
No, I want to hear what you have to say now.
Okay. So they say that variant Lokis can appear that look differently. I like the parallel universe theory and stuff like that. It's really fun. You can milk it for plot devices and stuff, but you should try and understand how it works so you can be consistent with it, okay? And so, for them to say that different types of Lokis can appear, this contradicts the idea of the sacred timeline. With them, the sacred timeline is one timeline that is pure, okay?
Well,
so
they said they reorganized the timelines into a sacred timeline.
No, one timeline. I went back to episode 1 and I confirmed this. It is one single timeline, the sacred timeline.
I'm pretty sure it said they organized.
No. All the other ones are gone. It is just one timeline now.
Why is there multiple?
Yeah, ha ha! Do you see the problem?
So maybe it's in your accounting that's the problem, not the show.
No, it's the show. I went back and I checked this, okay? Because this is the problem. That means in this sacred timeline, there is no existence of a different Loki that looks different to the main timeline, which is what the normal Loki looks like.
My understanding is that there's multiple timelines that have been organized into their own sacred
No, they destroyed every timeline except the one that they want, or forced events to conform to the timeline they want, but any other timeline is...
But if the Lokis were different, like they showed one was an Olympic runner, one was a...
They would be contradicting themselves.
Yeah.
You're right, Oz.
So
You were right. How can they exist?
So that's what I'm saying, like, do you think they've honestly made that big of a mistake?
Yes.
I don't think so.
I absolutely do.
I think they've got multiple
Now,
timelines.
what I find funny is, like, you realise how much of a massive stuff-up this would be.
Well, yeah, they've just contradicted their whole...
Their whole premise for everything. So, episode 1, this is the...
There was a vast multiversal war. Countless unique timelines battled each other
Countless
for
unique
supremacy.
timelines.
Battled for supremacy.
And the total destruction of, well, everything.
And it was the
But
war
then
that did
the
it.
all-knowing time timekeepers emerged, bringing peace by reorganizing the multiverse into a single timeline.
Oh,
The
okay.
sacred
Reorganizing the
timeline.
multiverse. So it's multiple universes organized into a single timeline.
Yeah, but there's a single timeline though. There's not more than
Yeah,
one.
that's where the confusion was. See,
okay.
like, if they're separate universes, but all in the same timeline. That's what they said. Reorganizing the multiverse into a single timeline.
Now, look, there's ways you could maybe... let me go with
that's
you.
what he
right
said.
then. Let me go with... You're saying then that alternate realities that are different to the one can exist along this sacred timeline, but they have to follow the same time. So what changes would there exist between them?
Well, that's what they said. They reorganized the multiverse into a single timeline.
But see, to me, that, like,
Yeah,
the
those,
whole
those
concept...
universes would have their own different time and stuff, and all own different things happening. So it barely makes sense. But
I
maybe...
think it doesn't still doesn't make sense because to me they're so strict about one timeline, and if there is more than one, well, in the first episode they say it would lead to war, which would destroy reality, and in this episode they say if any branch comes out of the sacred timeline that extends too far, that will just end reality there.
Well, maybe all of these all these universes, because multiverse, they've all been altered in a way where they can't interact with each other. Thus, it's a sacred timeline. Thus, it's a single timeline. They can't interact with each other. They can't.
I think you're giving it way too. You need you're filling in gaps that aren't.
Well, they
explained.
just said they reorganized the multiverse.
Yeah, but you know another way of to explain the reorganization.
Destroying them.
The snipping, exactly what they're doing. They show you how they reorganize by destroying the variables.
Well, they go through universes, but oh man, this is confusing.
If you have one timeline, the only other universes that would exist then would be like the dark dimension and stuff. You couldn't
Those
have
are dimensions, not
a parallel
universes.
reality is a different timeline.
That's my point. We need to get the definitions down right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the words that they used were multiverse was reorganized into one timeline, so they can't interact. Well, they can't.
So
have war.
a different Loki comes from a parallel reality. They don't come from another universe like the dark dimension.
Well, no. That's not. That's a dimension, not a universe.
And they are another universe.
Well, they're a dimension though, which is just a direction. That's what a dimension is.
I don't think it works at all. I think they're contradicting themselves big time.
I don't think so. By their own words.
What do you guys think in the comments? Let us know. What do you think?
I think this is really hard
I
because
swear if you say we're both right, I'm going to punch you in the face. Just to prove one of us wrong.
First of all, I think that they need to define the definitions a bit more because it's too easy to get mixed up with parallel dimension, timeline.
What the sacred timeline could be is literally just a way they've organized all the universes so they can't go to war. Like, that's it. They've just prevented the war. And that's the sacred timeline.
The analogy I've thought of is it's like a tree. So like Shah was saying, there's a big bang, that's the origin, it's the trunk. And then you branch out different branches, which is the multiverse. And what happened is, without any pruning, it gets all messy and like a big crazy bush. But what the TVA does is they prune it. So it's not as messy.
Yeah,
and like
to me, my understanding
ordered it.
was they cut off every single branch except the main trunk.
I feel like there's still other branches because it's a multiverse.
Well, it's
But
like...
no, they say there is one sacred timeline, there's no longer a multiverse.
There's one sacred
if the
timeline.
multiverse existed, it led to a multiversal war.
Well, that's the thing. Does each universe have its own timeline? If so, then they can't all have different timelines.
It's a
you know?
multiverse.
Yeah.
Timeline.
But that's my point. Is like it's so hard to abstract to that level. So maybe it just makes sense that multiple universes all wrapped up in a way that they can't fight each other. And it does, and you're right. It does show in the courtroom. It does show a mural on the wall with the timekeepers with scissors, and the red line, which is time, is represented as a growing tree. They've snipped things off, but it's still wrapped up next to each other, like all the stuff. Yeah.
See, to me, I think you're writing for the writers. They haven't explained it at all.
No,
and
they didn't say multiple universes reorganized into the sacred.
they didn't.
timeline.
Exactly.
That's exactly the exact words they used.
Yeah, when they say that though, what we're arguing about is how did they organize. To me, the organize is what they show in the show, which is destroying everything else.
No, in the show, which they say now, they've just locally, they've reset that area by deleting every problem with that area that shouldn't be
You would be
there.
right if they could go to another parallel reality that has a different timeline.
which I think they'll do.
They will do that.
I think that is explicitly impossible because there is one timeline, specifically the sacred timeline.
Oh, wait, no, think about the trailer, right? The stuff that it showed. It showed Loki in like a destroyed America where he's got the Vote Loki thing on. It showed Loki.
Well, I guess future episodes might let us know.
No, but remember what happened at the end of this one? Is they ruined the sacred timeline. So maybe where he goes through in the trailer...
Now he might be able to go to other ones.
Exactly.
But that's...
No, not alternate universes. Alternate, like, time has been changed.
Yeah, parallel realities. That's what they're called.
Parallel timelines.
Yeah, exactly. Parallel realities is a parallel timeline.
Like,
yes.
as in he's changed something in the timeline that's led to a destroyed America.
Which, again, that goes to my argument that the TVA's purpose is to not have parallel realities.
But they do have multiple universes.
I
And
think-
when a reality is destroyed, it's not the reality
I don't think they
that's
have
destroyed.
multiple universes.
They just said the multiverse was reorganized.
No,
into a second
exactly.
timeline.
And my answer of how they organize it is by killing them all.
But they don't, because they said in this most recent episode, which I assume follows on from the last one, is it only does it locally. It doesn't do the entire universe of that timeline.
We'll find out who's right. But this is the
they
point.
said it in this episode.
No, like to me, there's only one timeline, and we'll find out.
Not now, there's not.
Not after this episode, but see, because it's the thing. If there is one timeline, which I feel they've been pretty explicit about saying that there's only one timeline,
Yes.
variant
With
Lokis
multiple
would
universes in it.
variant Lokis would be impossible.
They showed in the animation, right? They grabbed the variant, right? They did the deletion of that branch, but then they dropped the same person back into the line.
That's because they grabbed them and put them in. So
No.
Okay,
again.
yeah,
They grabbed them, took them to
okay,
TVA.
I get you. This is where you're coming from. So this is their explanation of where the variant rogue Lokis come from. Now we're making progress, right? Is that someone did something back in time which caused a branch, and then they bring it in, right?
But they also put the same person back in that spot.
Yeah. But my question is, where did the different looking Loki come from if it's one timeline to make the variant?
A different universe.
You reckon the different...
They said the multiverse is reorganized. Otherwise, like, they wouldn't have that big a contradiction in their show.
All right, we'll
Maybe
find
you're
out.
just misunderstanding. Or
It could be, right?
I'm sorry.
Well, this is the thing. No, I'll go with you then, all right? Because if multiple universes, realities do exist, okay, in this sacred timeline, they... look, it still doesn't work, because as soon as you allow parallel realities, there are so many different ones that you wouldn't be able to account for all of them. But if they're trying to say this bringing together of all the realities, what is that actually doing in these other realities? There's no there's no way for me to even think thematically and narratively what to explain bringing together realities mean apart from destroying them. All right, but they're bringing them together, which does, we have no idea, and then they're on a trajectory, and so that means the timekeepers would be policing the timeline of infinite parallel realities.
Well,
they couldn't just do it with one. That means there's more than one timeline, which is why I think it's wrong, because they always say there's one. But okay, the sacred timeline is one that applies to multiple realities, potentially infinite, and they're all moving forward. And a branch is a thing that causes it to something, another reality, and these branches are what cause the realities to destroy each other.
Can someone grab a piece of paper or something like that, Nathan? You might not be able to see this with the camera, but you see how this is lined?
I do.
Right? Maybe they have manipulated the events in all these different timelines. So, like, imagine this, like, all these lines extended infinitely, right?
Yeah,
if you were to stand back, it would look like
all
a
these
very
lines-
long single line, right?
These are timelines. They're all right. Yep.
Okay, so this is the way they've organized things. They want them all to go in this set direction. But if you change something, it goes off in another direction. And you change something, it goes off another direction. Either way.
You say that by bringing the timelines together and moving in the same direction, that somehow does something that they want.
No, because think about how they show it in the show, right? The idea of chaos, the timeline, reality ending chaos is them just interacting, right?
So
and
perhaps-
so if you're going to represent that physically, then any deviation, a branch, causes them to literally interact.
Like along a fifth or sixth spatial dimension.
Sure, maybe an event from this crosses over into this somehow, like you were saying. Like, who knows? They
That
haven't
would be
explained that yet.
interesting if they explained it.
It's only the second episode, Shane.
We'll see. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
We'll find out. My suspicion is that they're not going to explain it they're just going to leave it. This is that, because they do it all the time where they try to explain something, they contradict themselves, and then they don't interest it again, and they just do the show. And that's what they'll probably do with this.
Maybe.
I think either next episode we're going to get an explanation of where the new Loki came from.
I hope so. That'd be interesting.
If they don't, that's really, really bad. But I think if this gets stuffed up, they're going to fix it all in the Doctor Strange movie.
No, see, every attempt they have tried to fix stuff in the MCU has made it worse. This is their attempt to try and fix the time travel stuff in Endgame, and they're making it worse.
But I still feel like they're going to be like, okay, Doctor Strange, you need to fix.
Endgame didn't even need fixing.
I mean, they tried to do this in Rise of Skywalker with the Holdo maneuver, right? The Holdo maneuver makes a massive hole in Star Wars continuity.
Because then Holdo was literally fleeing the battle.
Well, the question is like, why wasn't anyone doing these hyperspace ramming things? And so their fix in the next movie is like, it was a 1 in a million.
Yeah.
Which makes it so much worse, because what it means is Holdo was either betting everyone's lives on a 1 in a million chance, and trust me, if you ever give an option of, you could do this, but it's 1 in a million, that's basically an almost certainty that it's not going to work. I would never bet on anything if it's a 1 in a million chance. It's an almost certainty, except for 1 in a million, that it's not going to work. Which means the only explanation Holdo has then is she was trying to run away.
Yeah.
Trying to run away into hyperspace.
She would have had a better shot. She would have had a better shot ramming it at regular speed.
Yeah, and by her running away, the First Order would have been left to be able to kill everyone. It makes it so much worse, that explanation. And so, same with this, every time they've tried to fix something, they've made it, and that's what I expect that's going to happen here, but just because of the track record.
Yeah, they don't have a good track record.
So I think they're not going to define how these timelines interact. I'm really interested because you're right. Like, if they show that other parallel realities do exist, that would explain where different Lokis come from.
Yeah.
The different Lokis can only come from parallel realities. My point is that should be an impossibility if they are dealing with one timeline, and one timeline should not allow for a parallel reality. Unless, and this is your argument, that all parallel realities exist on a set timeline individually,
so
that is specified by the Time Lords.
Yeah, which I think is how it works.
Which is what you think that's happening.
Yeah.
I don't think so, but well, I could be wrong.
Then they'd be massively contradicting themselves in their own show.
I hugely.
Yeah.
Because the only way a different Loki could exist, if you go back far enough, and for the female Loki specifically, that there was a different interaction in the conception of Loki to come out with a girl, which would have been a variant from the perfect timeline, because the perfect timeline is the MCU timeline, and they should have and we know what Loki exists in the perfect timeline according to them, so that should have been wiped out. This female Loki should not have even had the possibility to exist in her own separate timeline.
Well, the timeline is the flow of events, right? But the different universes are the different variables, you know? And so they're all just organized.
Well, see, my point is that the different universes come from changes in the timeline. That's where parallel realities branch from.
They come from different choices.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's my point. Is that parallel realities come from changing the past.
But are they,
and that's bad according to what they're saying.
They've said it's a multiverse reorganized into a single timeline. Mine is a charitable interpretation, but it's also using all of their rules that they've said. And
yeah, so your theory would be that there are multiple universes that don't branch out from one another. That they're just independent for whatever.
Well, I mean, they exist regardless.
But no, because the show currently is very explicit about any change in the past. So time travel is bad because it causes a variation.
Well, time travel is bad. They use that as a way. That's the
yeah. But it branches off from the main timeline, which is reaches the red line, end of the universe, and so they need to correct every single change in the past.
But you're still forgetting.
That excludes any possibility of alternate realities that are caused from variations in the past.
But it doesn't, because it's a multiverse.
Well, that's the thing. This is because your theory is that independent parallel realities exist that do not branch out from one another. That would work, okay, if that was the case.
Well, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is that it's their job to reorganize time so that they can't have another war. That's my theory, is that they've reorganized time so that they can't, like, all the different realities, universes, whatever you want to call them, are all operating on the same timeline this way, right? And so they come back and stop things from hitting other times.
Yeah. And your definition, and it's very sharp. Look, there is a logical, through line that actually.
I'm just trying to keep it logical.
Yeah, it's consistent. Yeah, I know, and you're doing their job for them. Is that your interpretation of a war is a branching timeline from a parallel reality that somehow intersects along a higher spatial dimension with another timeline, which could cause their mutual destruction.
Maybe.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, okay? And it's not a physical war where one is invading. The war is caused by the inadvertent interaction that a branching timeline does when it hits another timeline on a higher spatial dimension, which causes their destruction.
War, instability...
This is high brain stuff, guys. I love it.
I'm just trying to... I'm just trying to work it out.
That... I could go with that.
Yeah.
If they explain that in the show... the only way that would work, according to the show, if these parallel timelines, parallel realities, do not branch off from a core, perfect, sacred timeline, you could almost say, because every instance of variance from the perfect timeline is bad that they've shown, and it needs to be cut out.
Yeah.
Because if that is the case, if parallel realities come from the golden timeline, girl Loki could not exist.
Yeah, that's true.
That's my problem.
If it goes that way.
Yeah. And I actually kind of like your theory, but I don't think they understand it on that level at all.
Maybe the red line is one of those other timelines.
Oh, that would be interesting. Alright, so there is an explanation, granted, but we'll... Alright.
Loki writers, can I have a job? Me and this guy disagree too often.
I loved it. This is a good debate. We got really into the nuts and
You know
bolts.
me, I get heated if anyone's like, no.
We'll find out who's right, though, I guess.
Don't let me
This is the
down,
thing.
Loki writers.
What I think is that neither of us... Well, I have two arguments. One, I have my argument that they're contradicting themselves. My second argument is that they don't even understand and they won't answer it. And so you could be right, but they will not do any further explanation, which will just leave it in the air. And that's what I think is the most likely outcome.
I think...
There's going to be no... Like, you could easily do the world building to this level of specificity. Like, wouldn't it be cool if the branching thing, like Oz's explanation, the branching time is a thing that actually could intersect another timeline on a higher spatial dimension, causing their destruction because they can't occupy the same space or something like that. That would kind of be cool, because the reason why I like that, right? That has an intuitive logic to it. You can understand it thematically and narratively because matter occupying the same places matter, cancel each other out, matter and antimatter. We kind of already...
But then it would mean that the different realities occupy potentiality. Potentiality is something that can exist, right? They're occupying a lane of potentiality.
No, they're occupying a lane in a higher spatial dimension. That could work.
Yeah, but the only reason why they would collide is because, like, the circumstances have lined up and they've hit each other. So the potentiality is they're occupying lanes of potentiality.
That's one way to explain. Like, there are theories in science about how the Big Bang started, and one theory is literally that the universes exist on that there is separation along a high spatial dimension, and sometimes they collide, and when they collide, they create a Big Bang event. That's actually a theory that I've seen in the documentary, and so there's some similarity to Oz's theory to that, which is why I like it. There's actually a through line there, a logical through line. Because now we get to another discussion, and that is the female Loki. Gender bending has been done in comics for ages. I think it's fine. It's fun. My issue is when they're trying to send a very overt message at the detriment of the story and at the detriment to the character. Like, as soon as they said, this is the superior Loki, there was no question in my mind that it was going to be anything other than a female character. Because they have such a propagandic message. I knew
from leaks that it was a female Loki.
Female empowerment is great. I love it. As long as it's not at the detriment of male empowerment. Because guess what? Guys need their role models, girls need their role models. Let's stop kicking and pulling down men
It's 2021, Shad. The people who know that you're being honest, they know and they care. But the people who disagree with you don't care if you give that preface.
They'll just say I'm sexist.
Exactly.
It's like,
and I guess you're doing it for the person who's uninitiated.
Hopefully, and so that's my issue with it. And this is clearly agenda driven.
Yeah.
The reason why is because of the ripping down of Loki. They're making him weak, pathetic, beaten down, defeated. There's a superior Loki, a greater Loki, and this is when, if their goal is for female empowerment, that's fine. I think that's great, and what they don't realize is that they're hurting their own cause now, because instead of trying to show that women can be capable, which of course they are, they feel like they can't give these female characters any weaknesses or flaws like Rey, and they make Mary Sue's and everything like that. And they don't. We see it in Mulan. We saw it in Star Wars, and it starts to feel like a female supremacy message that instead of women are equal to men, women are better than men. And that is just as bad as saying men are better than women.
Well, Shad, don't you know that women have been oppressed since the dawn of every timeline? And so we need to be corrective like the TVA and stop it from happening ever again.
Men have been oppressed too, in different ways.
Shut up.
Yeah, I know,
okay.
but no, the reality is...
Be as disingenuous as me.
Yeah, no, both men and women have had to go through hell historically. If you want to look at most people who die in wars, you're going to find a bit of a gender difference, and it's going to skew in one way.
History has been a cooperative experiment, not an oppressive one. I mean, sure...
So instead of trying to say... woe is me, what about woe is us, and let's work together to make a better world, okay? This is trying to insert tribalism and politics in division and stuff, and look, it's not as overt, but you see signs of it, and what the expression of this is by making quite clearly all the female characters superior to all the male characters.
But
and have we seen that in Loki so far?
Shad, if I can't divide you, how can I conquer you?
I'm not saying you can't have women in power, women powerful, women, have self-determination, all that things and stuff. Just make a balance. And so Loki is getting crapped on all the time, and Owen Wilson is simping to, I like looking up to you, it feels natural, normal, or whatever he says.
This is what all reality should be like. Wow.
It's like, seriously, if your goal is to push women's rights, you don't want it to come across like a female supremacy movement. And that's what it's feeling like with stuff like this, where it should be that you're above me. It's like, no, one should not be above the other. How about, is it equality or not? Seriously. And so there...
The fact that...
You look uncomfortable there.
Oh, I agree. But
that's because he has a Twitter account. So. If you can find it, you can get back at us for all of this through Nathan.
I had a thought. I don't think it's going to happen, but I would love to see a good Loki arc. I'd like to see him fall now because of female Loki, and then him realize that, okay, he's right now has weaknesses and flaws, but I want to see him either reach or become better than the female Loki.
Oh,
you
no,
sexist.
dude.
But,
you
but
misogynist.
Because right now he's positioned as someone who is flawed, like majorly.
Inferior.
Yeah.
No, he's found his superior version, and it's female.
You want
because
Loki,
naturally.
You want male Loki with a penis to be better than female Loki with a vagina? You sexist, homophobic, racist.
By the way, they could have easily had a female Loki that was more capable just because of experience and other things like that. But if they didn't make the whole overt, she is superior to you, Loki getting beaten down, actually make Loki still competent and achieving things and fight back on an equal level, use his magic when he's getting beaten down, it wouldn't be so, like, it feels like it's overt in their political leanings.
Yeah.
Now, if you're wondering, sometimes it's done well. I'm not saying it's never done well, okay? I think this is an example of it doing poorly. And if you think there is not a sense of where the pendulum goes too far, where they're pushing up female supremacy to try and take down male supremacy instead of true equality, just look at the Monopoly, is it Feminist Monopoly?
Feminist Monopoly.
Where they literally pay the girls who play the game more, they get the 200 or whatever, than the men playing it. And it's like, is the goal equality or supremacy?
No, the goal is to subvert your understanding of these principles so that you can't recognize them when they're broken.
Anyway,
That's the goal.
so I don't like going into politics, but I feel politics are quite overt already in Loki. It's not as heavy-handed as other things, but it's there. It's there, and the female Loki is... like so clearly one with the lines that they've been dropping about it's the better you, it's the superior you. And again, I'm not saying you can't, gender bending has been done in comics for ages and it's been done fine. Like one of my favorite comic books, X-32. It's basically a female clone of Wolverine. And it's
X-23.
X-23, sorry. It's really good. It's a good comic book series. And it wasn't politicized or anything like that. Okay? You can absolutely make female gender-bending versions of male characters. Would they ever do it in the reverse, a male version of an established
I
female?
thought about that as well. Like, if they changed Captain Marvel or Black Widow, there would be an uproar.
Outcry.
Yo, here's a
couldn't do
spicy
it.
take. What if they did it across race? What if there was a white...
Like, imagine if a male version of Black Widow comes along that's either cloning for a parallel dimension or everything, and there's literally a line, it's the superior version of you, and it's a male. The flippin' outcry that would happen, the sexism outcry that would happen to that would be massive. Okay, that's if you want to see hypocrisy. Reverse the scenario. Of the whatever versus the principles are at play, male to female. You can even do this with race, and see if it flies the same way, and you'll see if it's actually truly sexist or.
That's the thing, Shad. These people don't have principles. Their principle is power.
No, some don't.
No. The people who believe and enact cultural Marxism don't have principles.
Yeah.
That's making them uncomfortable.
No. Oh well.
Oh yeah, I mean.
No. My undershirt.
Yeah. Sorry. It's that's making you uncomfortable, not me.
Hang on.
You see, I've watched a lot of Jordan Peterson. I know the cultural Marxists, man. I know them. I know what they're about.
We do endorse.
And they're all about this.
We endorse Jordan Peterson.
Absolutely.
I wonder how many subscribers we'll lose.
Well, also, I've been reading the Gulag Archipelago, so I can see the mode of thinking.
The thing is, though, everyone from any political leaning is welcome here. All right,
absolutely.
We're not those type of people that if you have different political leanings, look. If you love superhero comic books and everything, that's fine. And if you don't like the political talk, well, if only it wasn't in the TV shows we enjoy.
Yeah, it's all. It's. Oh, I won't say it, but it's in everything. Whatever it is in everything.
All right, so
the food you drink.
The thing is, though, there is another implication about the female Loki that it changes my long-term predictions about this now. I actually think, based on this, is Tom Hiddleston is going to be stepping aside, and she is going to enter the main MCU timeline as the new Loki.
No, I don't think so.
I think so.
I think Thor: Love and Thunder will be Thor, Chris Hemsworth, Thor exiting Thor, and Natalie Portman stepping in.
Possibly, but it's in their playbook then. I think the female Loki will become the new Loki, the main... thematically, what they'll probably do is that...
Thematically?
They'll probably do... Loki will actually subvert the time lizards, okay, and get to control the TVA, and he's going to free it up and make a multiverse the way he sees fit, chaos into chaos, and it'll be somehow good, but anyway, he's going to control things. He'll be able to do it in such a way to avoid the universe ending or a war, and so Loki will win something in his way of being tricky and everything, and he stays there, and the female Loki will enter the main timeline and go, and if we ever see Loki in a future Marvel property, it'll be the female one.
No,
unless they bring back Tom Hiddleston because people love him.
What I'm starting to think is that it'll end with Loki thinking, you know what? The TVA controlling literally everybody's destiny is just a necessary thing to happen. We need to be controlled. I think that's what's going to happen.
Well, that was my other prediction. I think
we've swapped because I was thinking that he's going to destroy the TVA, and
Well, see, I was thinking the TVA will, in the longer form, they will justify and say that they're a needed presence.
Yeah.
And I think that might still be the same, but with Loki at the head now. Instead of the TVA, instead of the Time Lizards, and the female Loki is going to be the main Loki in the MCU timeline.
What if that's the female Loki's...
Look, I acknowledge there's a lot of other possibilities that the female Loki might die tragically, and Loki will have a change of heart by knowing that she was better than him, and he's going to try and be better, like the better Loki, and learn from his mistakes. That'll probably happen. Because I reckon, with all the crap that Loki's going through, I think the Marvel writers might be aware that people do love Loki. He got the whole TV show based on people liking Loki, and Tom Hiddleston, he seems like he's enjoying the role, and if he's willing to stick around at the right price, I reckon they'll keep him on board. But he might be too expensive, and if it's too expensive, all right, Tom Hiddleston's too expensive, but people love Loki. I know, we'll make a new Loki, and we'll make it a better Loki, and bring in the Loki in the main MCU timeline.
What if female Loki's goal is to... Well, I mean, she has literally done that, but to do what you're saying is destroy the timeline so they're all different.
Possibly. Do you guys have any other predictions for female Loki going in the future?
I think she's going to be a bad Loki. I think she's going to... As a Loki character, I think she's not going to be as charismatic or as mischievous. I think she's literally just going to be a bland, boring, I'm a Mary Sue BS.
That's the bit so far, being how things are. I hope that we're wrong and that, whoever's, I don't know the actress doing it, but she can kick it out of the park. But even in the small interaction that we saw, she didn't seem very Loki-esque in terms of... She was just like... She was quiet and reserved.
She's like an angry Tumblr lady.
That's not Loki. But look, parallel reality Loki, it gets to be different. And so I guess it's like... And this is why I'm annoyed that, because if it's going to be so different that it doesn't even feel like Loki, just what's the name, point? What's the point? Exactly. And so, especially if their intention is to replace the mainstream Loki with this one, and she's completely different, well, we'll find out.
We'll find out.
Your predictions in the comments below, fellas. Was there any predictions that you want to share?
I think what they will do in Thor: Love and Thunder, we'll get both the Lokis, and then female Loki will stay. Because in that way, because with the MCU movies, they still need to be connected. I think Marvel and Disney are going to keep fans who haven't seen the Disney Plus stuff informed still. So I still think we'll have Tom Hiddleston in the next Thor, but I think he'll exit.
Okay, we'll see. Those are the main things that we want to talk about. I got some other little kind of annoyances. In the fight in the shopping center, Loki uses telekinesis. It's like
it's magic.
Since when?
Well, I mean,
if he could literally pull things to his hand just by willpower, that would have been really useful at multiple times throughout all times Loki exists. This is about being consistent with his powers. We know Loki can make illusions of himself and things.
Is there any time in the MCU where he could have used magic or telekinesis to save himself in some way?
I'm pretty confident. I reckon he lost his staff at one point, didn't he? Could he have just pulled the staff back to his hand?
Well, he rolled off a thing onto a thing. Maybe.
Still, if you're desperate.
Maybe.
Telekinesis is insanely useful, not even just to save his own life. And so suddenly he can do telekinesis now. All right, fine.
Also, what the hell was the point of that? He grabbed a vacuum?
I know, it was to hit someone with something. It's you've got all these other powers that we know of.
He can fight as hard as Thor, basically.
It's just so disappointing.
Yeah, he can summon knives out of nothing.
Oh, and the other weird contradictory thing, bad Loki can do mind control, and he says, enchantment or something like that. Isn't that nice? It's like, hang on. I thought mind control required an infinity stone to do. Loki's done that before, but he had the Mind Stone. And so that's implying he couldn't do it without a staff, and this is a high-tier ability, requiring a bloody Infinity Stone, and this one is just zap!
Yeah, but Shad, it's the superior version. It's the superior female version. Who can
I hate
everything you can do, I can do better.
They could do magic that required an Infinity Stone before, just because... female, I guess. I don't know.
Yep.
Oh, consistency. So we need is consistency. Is it that hard for the writers to look at the previous, movies and stuff and say, oh, these are the things Loki can do. This is my wheelhouse repertoire of bag of tricks I can resort to. And if I introduce something new, it needs to be bloody justified.
It's not hard for them, but it is inconvenient. That's why they don't.
It's this particularly annoys me because it's so easy and it's so lazy that they don't do it. They're just it's magic. We can just even as far as making himself dry by the zippy thing. It's I didn't have too much of an issue because it doesn't have any greater impact on the overall narrative. It's not it necessarily combative power, but it still annoys me because it's when you're dealing with magic, you really got to be consistent with what they can do. Otherwise, it's just Deus Ex Machina, do what I need for the plot to get me out of whatever thing because I can... And so, yeah... it really annoys me.
Nathan, say something.
It annoys me too.
Feel it, Nathan.
No, he can't. He
no,
lost the part of his brain.
Disney hurt me after Star Wars and I haven't felt anything since.
This is a hole in your soul.
It legit is. I waited so long to see The Last Jedi, and then when I saw it, I nearly cried. When Luke died, I wasn't crying from sadness. I was crying from what did they do? It was
Now the emotion comes out.
But now I just
Put that back. That was scary,
it's just
man.
dead inside.
Now I'm just.
He hasn't recovered.
I haven't.
I feel you. I could still obviously get annoyed, and bad writing, especially as lazy and bad as this, where it's like, it's so easy to just be consistent.
Well,
Gosh, I do wonder where they get these writers who write this garbage.
I saw the writer who writes for Loki.
Is it a checkbox writer? Oh, you have all the checkboxes, we'll hire you.
Well, her Twitter said she, her, and that, yeah, so yes.
This is what happens when you don't hire based on merit. And if the writer is watching this, yes, what you did was bloody lazy, and who am I to say it? I'm an author, alright? Read my book, and then see if I know a thing or two about it. Flippin' heck. Annoys the hell out of me.
I couldn't find any inconsistencies in your book.
I think, look at that, it can be done. It's not hard, that's what annoys. Anyway, I think that's everything, and I'm even more annoyed now talking about you guys with all this. No one will have reached this point. I should say the one smart thing, and I bet the writers were just so happy with themselves for doing this. It's how Loki figures out where the other Loki is hiding. This was actually made logical sense. Like, it fit well within how the time things that if you try and change anything before an apocalyptic event that's going to happen around you, any change that you have will not have any long-lasting impacts to create a divergent time stream, and therefore it wouldn't appear on the TVA's radar because they are able to detect divergences in the timeline. That's actually really clever. I like it. And it gives Loki a win for figuring it out. It makes Loki feel smart. It's like the only thing that he does smart in the show. And it is clever writing. Credit where credit is due. Nearly everything else was dumb and garbage. Like, that was legitimate. Hey, there's a bit of clever writing. It must have been done by an intern. And like, it makes you feel like they were so happy about this. Like, I was like, this is so smart. I'm so happy with this. But they didn't think about anything else. They just let everything else, because they're like, that's clever. It's legitimately like, hey, yes, it makes sense if you change anything before something catastrophic happens. I like it. Who had that idea? If it was the main writer,
It was me. I'll take credit.
But
for
no,
it.
I want to give credit to whoever did it. If it was the main writer, like, okay, what you've got, I feel that there's some potential there. Why did you drop the ball on so many other things? And if it wasn't the main writer, and it was some intern or someone, hire that person. Okay? She's fired the main writer. Hire that person.
I feel like these shows have like 6 or 7 writers, and then they have to check it with every single department above them, and
there's too many pieces trying to work together.
Yeah, too many pieces.
And because the contradictory stuff is just. And remember, what's the big contradictory? That was the time war that caused the destruction of the universe, and now it's just a variant timeline reaching a red line that caused the destruction of reality. Not a war. Before it was a war, now it's just a red line.
But that could be a lie. Maybe. We don't know.
I think that's everything.
Yes, that is everything that has ever happened.
But it was a nice.
I agree.
It was a nice lengthy one, and I actually really enjoyed the discussion and debate. There we go.
It was good.
Share your theories, comments, and thoughts in the comments section below. I hope you see you in there. And we will be doing this for episode 3. Will it be better or worse?
Hopefully Ben will be here.
Mate, yeah, well, hopefully Ben will be
Where
back
are
as
you,
well.
Ben? Come back. Your wife misses you.
I wonder what Ben would have said about everything here. Maybe it would have taken longer because he could have thrown us off on another tangent. But hey.
Oh, says you.
I know, right?
That's a popcorn on the kettle black.
That really is. It really is.
Ben does exactly what you do. He just speaks slower.
But I was saying that as a positive because it would have made it more interesting. We got to talk about
Sure, it
more.
was a positive. It's a positive one. You do it too, Shad. Yes.
Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next episode here on Game Nights.